Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, before we get anything started around here, we got to thank those who allow us to do what we do. We are, of course, powered by Lopez Pizza. We're built by Durham Remodeling. We're colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and we're protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Of course, hello, one of your co-hosts here on the Card Subject to Change podcast, Never Wrong Nick Bull. So glad you're joining us. So glad you found us here. Episode 159. We'll talk about more about episode 159 in a second, but I'd be remiss if I did not introduce my tag team partner. We are co-champs of the For Frequency's Sake Network. I understand we've been called out by one Rob Kammerer on his MLW Confusion podcast. We can talk about that later, but regardless, we are still the tag team champs. My tag team partner, my co-host, he is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, buddy?
Man, there is always magic in the air when we're on the air, and I'm excited. I'll preface it right up front. I'm excited, but not necessarily in a good way for what we're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of got that impression. We hung out last night at the Highview Lounge. Props to all those who could make it out to the show last night. I know our buddy Stryker made his first appearance at the Highview last night. I think he had a good time. He seemed to enjoy himself. Our buddy Mass was here. That F and Mark. Jeremy was also here. My oldest, Landon, was in attendance, hanging out and watching Full Gear. And I got that idea last night, CZ, that you were kind of over there twiddling your fingers like this, just pondering how you were going to tear this show apart, because I know there was a lot of stuff that kind of rubs you the wrong way on this show.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I looked at this card, and there were at least two potential match of the year candidates on paper, in my opinion. I'll just throw them out right now. Konosuke Takeshita and Ricochet, and Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. We'll talk about in depth, but on paper, I thought at least those two matches could have had the potential to top what is my current match of the year, and that is Ospreay Danielson from earlier in the year. I'll say this, I don't think that anybody has put on an absolutely terrible pay-per-view between WWE and AEW. But this is probably the worst offering of the year, in my opinion, from both companies.
Okay, so you're saying I watched the show. There's stuff I liked about it. There's stuff that I wanted to see on it. So I wasn't going in totally hating. I wanted to give this show a chance. And this, in your opinion, is the worst major PLE or pay-per-view put on by either WWE or AEW this calendar year, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I had high hopes going in. I wasn't going in there to just completely tear it to shreds. But yeah, I felt like this was a lackluster offering overall from either company.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, since you said that was the most lackluster big show of the year that you had seen from either company, and you named last night's show as that. Okay, obviously that's AEW's worst offering of the year, or least like offering of the year, we'll say for now, before we talk about the show. What would your answer be from the WWE side of things in that aspect, because I think I know what mine would be. I just want to ask you what yours would be on the WWE side of things.
And I don't know that I have a good answer for that. You're putting me on the spot, so I'm trying to rack my brain as to what I would consider. I mean, I don't know that WWE has put on anything that was as lackluster as this. Nothing is standing out in my mind off the top of my head. Striker in our comments mentions Crown Jewel. That's probably right up there.
That was going to be my answer if you asked me, or I was going to give you my opinion on the WWE show. That didn't really do anything for me. Like Full Gear didn't do a lot for you. I would have to say it was probably Crown Jewel for me on the WWE side of things. What was before Crown Jewel? Man,
that was Bad Blood.
That was Bad Blood. And Bad Blood wasn't too bad. So, yeah, I'm going to go Crown Jewel. I'm going to go Crown Jewel on the WWE side of things for me. And I think I would, for the most part, agree with you for the pay-per-view as a whole. It is probably the lowest offering from AEW this year. And that's not railing on them. They've had some good shows this year, but probably, I agree with you in your assessment of Full Gear, but I think I went into Full Gear a little bit differently than you, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
And like I said, I had high hopes. I had two matches that I was really looking forward to that I thought were going to steal the show, and they just, in my opinion, didn't.
Well, I think one did.
I'll give you that.
I think when we go back and talk about this show, that'll be the first match you think of from this show, and we'll get to that. Trust me, we'll get to that. Once again, we're the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. We're powered by Lopez Pizza. We're built by Durham Remodeling. We're colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. We're protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Before we rip the Band-Aid off on all that is and was AEW Full Gear, let's take a second to talk about what we did as we record this on a Sunday early evening, what we did yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
With some other members of the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. Of course, the network tribal chief, DJ Jarvis, organizing the Toys for Tots shopping spree that we go on every year as a result of monies raised from fantasy football leagues that are played on the For Frequency's Sake in the For Frequency's Sake network. And For Frequency's Sake, their show. So we started participating in this last year. When I say we, I talk about my partner and I, the Wizard CZ. And they've been doing it for 4 years now, but we meet up. We each have a budget, and we kind of team up and go out and fill up a cart. And, of course, in the past, we've only done this 2 years, CZ, but last year we kind of went overboard, I think.
We did.
We kind of went in there, no violent intensity here, and no violence meant here, but we went in guns a-blazing. We went in there grabbing everything we could and just throwing it in the cart last year. And we kind of went over our budget maybe last year. So I was very mindful on our shopping spree yesterday. We did a reel from it. We apologized from the audio on the reel. I thought I was talking loud enough, but I wasn't. For once in my life, I wasn't loud enough. Imagine that. But we teamed up, and of course we filled a cart full of wrestling figures, all the wrestling toys we could get. We got multiples of some wrestling toys, but we nearly got one of every wrestling toy we could get. And that's just CZ and I's way of putting our thumbprints on something that's much bigger than what this show is. And that's, for a network to be able to raise that kind of money through fantasy football leagues, it's unbelievable. and for us to be able to go in there and do what we can with our time and in just the short amount of time we're there. And I don't like to scream, hey, we did this, we did this, we did this. I was just thanking those involved for letting us be a part of it, and wanted to know if anybody's seen us out yesterday. I know I ran into a few people that knew and said something about the show, which was very flattering. But we had a good time doing that, and it was all for a good cause. So hopefully there are a bunch of wrestling fans out there that are going to get their wishes fulfilled when they get those wrestling figures on Christmas morning, right?
Absolutely. And just to throw a number out there, that Doug, the the kingpin of For Frequency's Sake, announced on For Fantasy's Sake, the flagship show of the network, we raised through the fantasy football leagues, we raised $2,600 this year to help support the youth of the Quad Cities and Toys for Tots.
Now, and hats off to all those that participated. That's a big number, and it's grown each year. And to start like they did it 4 years ago and to have an amount like that after 4 years is extraordinary. And it felt good to participate in it yesterday. We were diligent. We kept track of each thing we put in the cart, had a running total, and I believe we stayed right on budget yesterday. And we came in as a whole $2 under budget, and filled up 3 carts. It felt great and to get that done, and to do that. You do get some glares from people because they're like, "Oh, you're stealing every toy on the shelf." We did say no. We're shopping for Toys for Tots. None of this is for me. Trust me, and because we do fill some carts up, and it's fun. And I wanted to thank DJ Jarvis, Doug Green, and the rest of the people who helped out yesterday with the Toys for Tots shopping that the network does here.
Good shout out. Good shout out.
Your turn to talk.
Do I have to?
Yes, you do. You do, because I need to take a drink here. So you got to talk here. So go ahead.
Well, that's fair. You take a drink, take a sip of your delicious beverage. Like Nick said last night, we were gathered in the Highview Lounge to watch AEW Full Gear, their annual November offering on the pay-per-view front. Like I said, there were some good matches going in on paper that I was looking forward to. I think as a whole, the pay-per-view fell short, and we're going to talk about that. But they did open really well. I think they picked the best match to open the show with that Fatal 4-Way tag team match. Now, I'm going to nitpick, and I hope I don't nitpick too much, because going into this match, when I hear Fatal 4-Way, I think, okay, there's 4 guys in the ring. They're all fighting each other at the same time. For some reason, all the major companies think that a Fatal 4-Way tag team match means that there's 2 teams as a whole sitting on a corner doing absolutely nothing while only 2 people are in the ring at the same time. And that just doesn't do justice to a Fatal 4-Way to me, Nick. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I know that really gets you right in the crawl. It really ruffles your feathers, so to speak, and I see why it does. Yeah, there should be a member of all 4 teams in there. We almost seen how that rule can backfire last night when the Acclaimed attempted pinning each other for those belts. So I just wish, if you're going to have a Fatal 4-Way, if you're going to have 4 teams involved, if you're going to have 4 people involved, that there needs to be that amount of people involved in the match. It can't be this, that, or the other. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I don't know. I know that bothers you, and it does to me in a sense, because we're suspended disbelief, right? But
right.
we're still questioning the rationale. Like, why wouldn't they just have 4 people in there at once, and then people wouldn't question this match as much? because I can't be the only one saying this about this match. CZ can't be the only one thinking this about this match. So other people out there, I think, have to be thinking it. So I don't know why companies don't change the rationale, or change it to having a member of each team in there to balance out the rationale of it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, logistically, and I've said this before, and I think you have too, when it's just two people in the ring with four teams, why would you tag out? Why would you? And obviously, you're moving a lot of moving parts here. You move an opponent to a corner, and someone's going to tag themselves in. That's just the nature of the beast in this type of scenario. But to me, it seems like it'd be easy to avoid throwing someone into a corner to get a tag out. Or having someone tag themselves in.
Or like our buddy Mass was saying last night, make it a tornado match. Make it a fatal 4-way tornado match. And hey, that would be so much easier to digest, and you wouldn't have to be having this conversation like we're having. Not that it's a bad conversation, but this conversation would be moot. It'd be constant action in there. Maybe if they changed it to a tornado, it would be more acceptable, and we wouldn't have to have this conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you'd have more chance for more things going on and more opportunity to get the crowd into things, because you have so many wheels spinning and you wouldn't know where to look, which can be a double-edged sword. I get that, but in my opinion, I think it'd be the lesser of two evils in this. And I'm not saying this match was evil by any means, but I'd rather see a tornado match where there's so much going on it's hard to digest than have it just be a standard tag match with four teams. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I think we're in agreement here. I totally agree. Switch it to tornado, make it so, there is stuff going on, because there's a lot of standing around when it's just two teams in there as opposed to four in a fatal 4-way. But let's move on to the next match. I mean, the match was fine. It was a good opener. I was rooting for the Outrunners here. I think they have got an incredible groundswell of, homegrown rise that these guys have been experiencing.
And they're just damn entertaining, being a throwback to the 80s.
They're entertaining. Bingo. And that's something we can talk about if you want to talk about that pre-show, because I didn't know if you'd bring up that pre-show or not, but you're right. They're entertaining. The Outrunners are. I did want to bring one thing up about the pre-show. So
I figured you would.
I'm going to, because you'll be like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, that's why you brought it up. But getting back to what we were saying, good match. We see the Acclaimed hinting at a possible breakup here, which is a head scratcher to me, because I don't know how successful those guys can be as singles wrestlers. Does that mean they're bad wrestlers? No. I think they're both very good wrestlers. I think Anthony Bowens is one of the most underrated workers in that company. Go back and watch him in like the blood and guts matches. The one that he was in this past year, he was the hero of that match, man. He put on an epic performance. He is underrated, in my opinion.
And I feel the same way. Anthony Bowens is a fantastic, very athletic, very entertaining in the ring star. I look at it this way between the two, and you kind of need both, in my opinion. Anthony Bowens is the steak. Max Caster is the sizzle.
Right. I mean, do you want to see this team break up and go do their singles thing?
Not really. I mean, kudos to them if they pull it off.
I don't want to see an established team break up when the only thing I'd want to see out of that breakup is them to fight a one-on-one match. And then after that, what do you got? It's just like we broke up to have a one-off. No, that doesn't make any sense to me. So unless they legit don't want to tag anymore, they want to become single stars. Okay, but I just kind of scratch my head on this one because it's all signs and inclinations that they're going to break up. Max, after doing his pre-match rap, doesn't toss the mic to Anthony Bowens. He kind of chucks it at him.
Yes.
And there was some moments in the match, a tag when there shouldn't have been a tag, a little excess here, excess there. And they're testing the waters of a split. So when these guys split, people may care because this seems to be progressing far much better than the teased split of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods and the New Day over on Raw. I don't care about that split because it's been teased so long. I'm interested in the hot new thing in the room, and that's this teasing the split up of Acclaim. Your thoughts, Wizard?
I like that you brought up the New Day because I agree. I was invested because I was invested in the New Day because it's something they've been together for 10 years. Watching Xavier Woods just get increasingly upset with everything that was going on, but they've dragged it out way, way, way too long to where now when you go to that New Day tribute Raw that's coming up, I believe it's tomorrow, isn't it?
I think so. As we record this, yeah, I believe it is Monday night.
I mean, that is
November 25th. Yep.
That is the obvious place for the full breakup, but at this point, who cares? Whereas Caster and Bowens, they've only been doing this tease for a week or two. It's hot, it's interesting, and they're adding some dynamics to it, with not just piling the same crap onto the same pile over and over again. Because let's face facts, that's what's happened with the New Day. It's just the same stuff in a different incantation every week for way too long.
Our buddy Stryker comments here. He can see Max Caster becoming the heel R-Truth character.
Okay.
Coming out of this, if we do get an Acclaimed split, that remains to be seen. Stay tuned. Stay tuned on that front. I want to bring up a thing from the pre-show before we get any further in this, and that is, hey, don't feel ignorant if you did not know who Big AJ and Big Justice and the Rizzler were, okay? Because if I didn't have kids, I don't think I would even know who they were. So having known who these guys were for a little bit now and their whole shtick and their whole spiel, I seen them at All Out. My Landon was we were in our seats and pointed out where they were because they had appeared on camera and then pointing them walking in and out of the building. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But these guys have such a following. AEW and Tony Khan reach out and so inclined they're going to have a match with QT Marshall. Now, I know AEW got browbeaten for this. I know they did. And I'm going to tell you what, the match wasn't that bad. The match was better than some of the stuff on the main card. I think you would agree with that, CZ.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
A predictable match. The social media stars get their pop, and rightfully so. But it's a business thing, man. This thing's all a business, and at the end of the day, you're trying to make money and get eyes on your product. So I know AEW is getting railed for doing this. I have no problem with them doing it.
I don't think it's any different than WWE bringing in like a Bad Bunny.
It's not. It's not. We know that Bad Bunny can wrestle, and they, I think, kind of knew that coming in too. But no, it's about making money and getting eyes on your product that normally wouldn't be there. So props to AEW for doing it. And I wanted to say this, the Rizzler making his debut, coming out last night, kicking off that whole thing, that is the third most watched wrestling clip of this year.
Is it really?
Yes. In one day, it is at number 3.
Wow. That's crazy.
The other 2 clips?
Curiosity, what are the 2 above it?
Number 2, The Undertaker appearing at WrestleMania.
Okay.
41. Was it 41?
40. Next year's 41.
You're right. At 40. And your number 1 clip is Joe Hendry appearing in NXT.
Okay. I can get behind that.
So, there's a reason why they did that, and it gets eyes on your product. So,
Nick, I'm going to need you to go into slow motion for a moment here, because our good friend Travis said that you are you are never wrong, Nick Morrison, this estranged cousin to John Morrison.
do you remember? You remember when John Morrison came out and when Miz and Morrison were together and John Morrison was part of it? He had that slow-mo camera that they went to, and he did this, and I just loved it. I love that he had the slow-mo camera as part of his entrance. I absolutely loved it. Hey, thank you, JT. I will take that as a compliment. I mean, everybody knows who John Morrison is, right? So if they can connect the dots, everybody will know who Never Wrong is. So it's a win-win. But I digress. We got to get back to Full Gear here. Let's talk about a couple more matches here before we take a break. We got off the rails there for a little bit, CZ, but that's what this show is all about. Yes. We are talking about AEW's Full Gear. CZ has previously spoken that he thought it was their lowest offering of the year. I agree with him on that front. And we both agreed that Crown Jewel probably was for WWE. We're catching up here. We talked about the opening match, how the Fatal 4-Way. If you're going to do a Fatal 4-Way with tag teams, you need to have all 4 members represented in the ring. We're past that. Have we got to the second match yet?
We have not. We're there now.
Let's do it.
We're there now, and obviously this is a match that has 2 very good talent in it. One who's been around for quite some time, the other who is really come into his own in the last year and a half, and that is Roderick Cole versus MJF. This is another match on paper that
Roderick Cole.
Did I say Roderick Cole?
You said Roderick Cole.
Wow, my brain was on air because of the rivalry.
Hey, hold on. There's something going on here, because yesterday we were putting toys in the cart for the Toys for Tots thing, and you picked up a Moxley character, and you said, "Hey Nick, look, it's Don Moxley," and I'm like, "What? Don Moxley?" I'm like, "What are you talking? It's John Moxley." Oh no! I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna razz you about it," and I did. I razzed you about it then. I razzed you about it last night. I'm razzing you about it now. But
and you'll probably razz me about it later when we talk about the main event.
And you said that yesterday. And what was the name you missed? You messed with just now that I called you out on?
Roderick Strong. I said Roderick Cole.
Roderick Cole. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I understand why I went there. Obviously, the MJF Adam Cole thing, they are trying to push down our throats, even though I think it's a dead feud. Neither here nor there. I'm glad we got a fresh matchup with Roddy taking on MJF here. And Roderick Strong, you don't see him on too many pay-per-views, and I think this was a well-deserved opportunity for him. I think it was. I definitely appreciated seeing him on a main card of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I do as well. Have respected him from his work way back in the early days of Ring of Honor. That's how I got introduced to him. Always have known him as the Messiah of the neck or of the backbreaker.
The what?
The Messiah of the backbreaker.
The what? Are you sure? Are you sure it's the backbreaker? You started saying something else there.
Did I say neck breaker, backbreaker?
You said neck breaker at first. You corrected yourself, but if you razz me, I get to razz you.
I corrected myself, though.
You did.
No, he's a good worker, and he's gotten better on the mic. I'm not saying he's great on the mic, but he's gotten better. And, I think AEW is proverbially dangling this MJF Cole feud in our face.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get it whether we want it or not. When we wanted it, Cole's ankle was shattered, and then people kind of lost interest. But I think they're trying to get us back to that point, and it's going to be very hard to. So much has changed since then, organically. So I don't know if the fans are going to care about it this go round as much as they did when they initially wanted it. But MJF, solid worker. He's great on the mic. I love his matches. I think I said to anybody in the room last night, hey, when was MJF's last bad match?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he has the best match every show, but he has a solid to above that match at all the big shows, in my opinion. And last night was no different. Went toe for toe with a very ring savvy, technically based Roderick Strong, and was able to get the W. MJF's going to find a way. And I think, I think I asked everybody last night. I still want to ask everybody out there that follows the show and watches, who do you want MJF paired up with if it's not Adam Cole? I mean, I think we're going to get Adam Cole. I don't know if everybody wants Adam Cole, but what do you want if you don't get MJF Cole? Who do you want MJF to go after next?
That's a great question. That's a very good question because, in my opinion, the playing field is open. I honestly, just to throw a name out there, I think him and Swerve Strickland would have amazing matches together. Now, I know they're both tied up with other storylines right now, but I think those two would tell an amazing story, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, I'm processing what you just said. I don't disagree with that. I just think it's too hard to tell right now. I mean, I think it's going to be Cole, but if it wasn't Cole, who would it be? And that's why I think it's going to be Cole, because I can't really think of anyone else right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But what were your thoughts? What'd you take away from this MJF Roderick Strong match?
I thought it was well put together. I love that MJF cuts a promo right at the beginning while the match is actually going on instead of right before. I think that was fun. He really has a way of getting the crowd to do what he wants them to do as far as whether they're cheering or booing. He has really good heat, and I think this was a fun match. I think it was enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely. I thought a little bit better than the opener. Not to say that the opener was bad, but both these guys can put on a show. They did. MJF looks as good as ever. Roderick Strong looked good in defeat. We get the post-match moment where Adam Cole comes out to kind of tend to the fallen Roderick Strong. And along with him are Matt Taven and Mike Bennett of the Undisputed Kingdom. And then we get a late appearance by Kyle O'Reilly, who comes in and then shoves down Adam Cole. So there might be some splaining to do come Dynamite. What's next in this story arc for these guys listed above?
And I got to be honest, I would love to see Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole run it back from their NXT days when the Undisputed Era broke up and they had their rivalry there. I would love to see that story run back in a different way in a different company.
Sign me up. I'd watch it again for sure.
They put on.
I have no problem with that. Both
of them have the capability to put on such tremendous matches. They're both very capable, very solid in-ring workers, and I want to see it. So find someone else for MJF, and let's run with this Cole Kyle O'Reilly thing.
I agree. You think we can talk about 2 more matches before we break, or you want to do 1 match?
Let's knock out 2 because we got a long way to go, brother.
Okay, let's rock and roll.
First thing I'll say about this next match, I looked up about probably 10 minutes in, if not sooner, because we were all engrossed in conversation during this next match, and I looked at everybody and said, "This match is still going on?" I mean, a year ago, or a little over a year ago, we were flabbergasted at the thought of Chris Statlander ending Jade Cargill's undefeated streak and taking the TBS championship.
Yep.
Now, fast forward, and all we want to see is Chris Statlander take that title away from Mercedes Moné, who is just awful.
Yes,
There, I said
we were. Wrestling will come full circle at you. Yes, we were. That's when he just said all the above was true. I'm going to get labeled a hater here, but I have not been impressed 1 iota with the work of Mercedes Moné since she's been in AEW. I know she got paid. She got a big fat chunk of change, and good for her. She was able to do that. Now she's supposed to be kind of the forefront of that women's organization, and I just don't feel it in her promos. I don't think the people care. I don't think there's a connection there with the audience. And yeah, I know she's the heel. She's not supposed to like the audience, but I'm telling you, MJF has a connection with the audience, and he's the best heel in the business right now. So I just don't feel that she has that connection with the audience. I don't feel people care about her matches. They can put her in there with whomever. It's just, in my opinion, it's not working right now. So yeah. Kudos to Chris Statlander for making this interesting on her side of the things. But I mean, I didn't walk away from this match, saying, "Hey, Nick, you've been wrong. You've been harsh. Your criticisms aren't true on Mercedes Moné." But I think my criticisms are kind of more concrete now after watching that match last night and knowing how I've critiqued her and the use of her on this show in the past.
And her in-ring work is just not, it's not, I don't know if it's missing something since she left WWE or if it's just never been there, but her in-ring work is not great either. There were several spots where I'm just like, are you kidding me?
I know we were talking about last night. I'm not railing on AEW by any means, but we were just thinking about women's divisions, and I don't think we've talked about how stacked the NXT women's division is, but that's neither here nor there. We can talk about that on a later show. But I think AEW, their women's division's kind of struggling. We've got Mariah May's next feud with Mira Shirakawa that they kind of introduced to us last night.
Let's talk about that. Let's just, I know that happened later in the show, but I'm itching to talk about that. Oh my God. That was the worst segment in pay-per-view history for women.
Are you sure? Come on.
No, I'm not 100% sure, but it was absolutely awful.
I mean, I've seen women get slop bucketed before.
Okay. That aside.
Okay. I just wanted it put into perspective for me. That's all.
I mean, I'm just trying. I've blocked most of this from my memory, but the physicality of this segment, this champagne celebration, was just off. Not good at all. They tried to go through a table, and that looked horrible, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
They kind of skidded on the top of it. I think you're talking about, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, it sets the feud up. I guess everybody was kind of anticipating Toni Storm to come back, but maybe that's the next opponent for Mariah May after her successful title defense with her next opponent here. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. They're going to wait a little bit, kind of milk this Toni Storm comeback, and that's fine. But yeah, that celebration last night seemed a little off. Like it almost gave me the vibe that it didn't go like that in rehearsals. That's the vibe it gave me.
Well, I mean, you're never wrong, but you're probably right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh man. But yeah, I think this was a missed opportunity to have Toni Storm, who announced her retirement, come back and challenge again, put herself back into that AEW Women's Championship position. I think this was a missed opportunity, and I think the segment as a whole went off terribly.
Yeah, I feel I feel your criticism is right on par. I don't think that's a bad criticism at all.
So I know we said we were going to talk about two matches. We talked about a match in a segment. Let's take a quick timeout.
Okay.
We'll pay homage to our fellow shows on the network, and then we'll reset to come back and focus. So you are tuned into Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fans for the fans, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We'll be right back after a few messages.
For frequency's sake, has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Card Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Head on over to the hardwood with Doug Green and Watching the W each week for all the news from the WNBA. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Dan Hancock and Gotham Gambling will help you cover the spread with the Golden Ticket Show. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellas come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance, looking at all the day's action. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip into the football lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for sticking around. We are the Card Subject to Change podcast, podcast by the fan for the fan. We've been breaking down Full Gear for you this show, but we got something else cooking here, don't we, CZ?
We do. I'm looking forward to this because it gives me a chance to reset with as upset as I've been over this pay-per-view so far. We're going to toss things over to our good friend, Mr. JT Energy, and just take a moment to focus.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And this week, the boys at the Card Subject to Change podcast, they're reviewing AEW Full Gear. But it's time to focus. And this week, we're focusing on making sure to make time. Wrap your head and your brain around the idea that in 24 hours, every single person on this planet has the same amount of time. What you do with that time is up to you. Every second really does count when maybe you're trying to change your life, or make time for something that you may never have the chance to do again. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
Always great hearing from our friend JT Energy, and he always hits a home run with what he has to tell us. Nick, I'm gonna give you a little peek behind the curtain. Next week, JT Energy has the honor of telling us, of picking what we are going to review for our second annual December I Don't Want to Remember pay-per-view review.
Yeah, it is the ugly sweater party of podcasts. We struggled through December to Dismember last year. And next week, CZ, next week, partner, we find out what we have to get through this year and give you that show later in December. But yeah, JT is going to be part of that. Explain that for us, CZ.
So I reached out to JT and I gave him several options of what we found doing some research to be the worst pay-per-views in existence, whether they are on the WWE network or there's one or two that are on YouTube. We just delved into WWE and one other outside of that for this year. I believe we gave 6 options. If you give me a second, I can pull those up because I wasn't fully prepared. You'd think I'd have this go. So options that we gave him were Super Brawl 3, King of the Ring 1995, Heroes of Wrestling, WCW's New Blood Rising, Vengeance from 2007, and Uncensored from 1996. Now, I know Nick and I both have a soft spot for one of these, and it's different for each of us. So hopefully one of our Christmas wishes come true, but we'll have to wait and see until next week to find out which of these wonderful broadcasts we are going to be giving our review and reaction to. Yes,
tune in next week to find out what we're bringing to the ugly sweater party. But we'll get back on track here, just like JT Energy said. Make the most of your time, right? We got to get back on track here and break down the rest of this Full Gear show.
We do. Let's talk about the next match. This has been an ongoing rivalry for the last couple of months between Jay White and Hangman Adam Page. Now, I'll admit I did not see Wrestle Dream last month. I was in Waterloo. I did not have a chance to revisit it after the fact. If you remember, that was the same day as our pre-show podcast party. I know you got home in time to watch it with that.
I did watch it. Yeah, I remember now that you recall that. I'm like, yep, that's what happened that day. Yep.
But yeah, this has been a small rivalry going in here for the last couple of months. I'm glad to see that Hangman Page has moved away from Swerve Strickland. I think that was much needed. Nice, refreshing new feud. And it's good to see Jay White get some love because he has been, in my opinion, severely mistreated since coming to AEW.
Yeah, a little bit of mistreatment, a little bit of injury wrapped up into one leaves a lot of time off your TV and out of your minds that Jay White has been with this company. Hopefully he's on the mend. He's back. He's cleared, obviously. Let's hope he stays healthy because I think he's got a lot to offer this company with all the possible matchups on this roster. So happy that he's back on a pay-per-view. So happy that he's in the ring with the likes of a Hangman Page. I think these guys complemented each other very well, like their styles. They've been in the ring before. They can both tell a good story with whomever they're in there with, and these guys did. And I like the way that Jay White won, and I like the fact that we got a little post-match action from Hangman to still further the story a little bit. So I was fine with this match, and I was actually pleasantly surprised when Jay White won. I thought Hangman would go over. So
Especially since Jay White got the win last month.
A pleasant surprise to have Jay White get one. So get another one. So hats off to him. And I like this match. How about you?
I thought it was well put together. I enjoyed it. Like you said, their styles mesh well together. Very, very fun. I thought this was a good match. And again, Jay White, after being put into the main event picture about a year ago, and then just not getting treated the way he should have in that main event match, in that world title match against MJF. I know you share that opinion. This was nice to see him come out and get another pay-per-view win and be put back into a prominent spot on the roster.
Yes. Yep. I agree. A good momentum boost, and see if this thing with Page continues or if he's on to something new. So something definitely to tune in for on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Or he's on Collision most nights. So I guess reason to watch Collision, Jay White. Jay White now back on your TV.
So this next match was the one that I was looking forward to the most. Kyle Fletcher taking on Will Ospreay. Will, by God, Ospreay. And honestly, Ospreay, I can't say that Ospreay has ever had a bad match that I've seen. There may be some out there, but I haven't seen them. I thought my mindset going into this match was that this was going to rival Brian Danielson, and Ospreay from their encounter earlier in the year. These two know each other. They've been partners together. They've been friends. They know each other so well that this should have been, in my opinion, a better match than it was. And I'm not poo-pooing on the match. The match was decent. I just thought maybe I overhyped it in my head, but it didn't live up to where I had expected it to be.
I think you overhyped it in your head. Here's why. Kyle Fletcher is 25 years old. I think he's really coming into his own. I thought they were going to have a good match. I thought they had a good match. Mm-hmm. And I think I know what you're saying, because maybe that match between Fletcher and Ospreay, maybe it lacked a little oomph than what Ospreay's other matches do. And I'll give you that. It may have had less high spots in the match, but the story that they told, this is Fletcher trying to get out of Ospreay's shadow. He's believing the devil on his shoulder, who is Don Callis. He's going out on his own. He's starting to buy into what the devil's selling him, and he took out his mentor yesterday. Was the match the most aesthetically pleasing to the eye, knowing the styles? No, it really wasn't. It was actually probably more physical than I thought it would be. However, in doing so, I think it showed how desperate Fletcher was to get that win, how much he needed that win, how much that win was going to propel him. And now he can just rub that in Ospreay's face over and over and over again. I think mission accomplished there. This isn't done, but having Fletcher win the way that he did, in the style and the match that was portrayed, I thought was spot on, and I liked how they did it. He was, if you remember, he fell back and was just draped over Ospreay. Like, he didn't have a leg hooked. Like, he covered him. He covered him. So I liked it. I think it's by design. It's going to make the promos better. It's going to make Fletcher step up his game now. Now, now he needs to have that match with Ospreay that you were wanting them to have yesterday. And I think we'll get that. But I think a different type of match was called for the circumstances. And I thought they did a good job. I thought it was the match of the night.
I don't disagree with that.
That's not to take away from some other matches that happened that I thought were decent, but this was the match of the night. And I mean, how can you forget Kyle Fletcher leaping from the apron onto the steel steps, giving Ospreay a tombstone pile driver?
Oh God,
a leaping tombstone. I mean, highly dangerous, highly effective, and it seems like after we had that banned moves kick out episode, all these moves kind of are starting to come out, and they're getting a little more physical, a little more violent, CZ. So maybe we're moving the wrestling needle a little more than we thought we were.
Well, I think we are. I think that was 100% true. Now, I don't have the best memory as far as like match moment by moment in a match, but that tombstone did not end the match, correct?
No, it did not. It did not.
That's what I remember. This was one of those moments, and we had several during the night, where there was a move that was so devastating that it should have ended the match. We all thought it was over, and it wasn't. And
yeah, it happened a few times. In the Ricochet Konosuke Takeshita match, I will say I was looking forward to this match. I was looking very much forward to this match because Konosuke Takeshita is my favorite thing to watch in AEW right now. He's my favorite wrestler in AEW. He's got a look. He's got a moveset. The styles he can wrestle. He can wrestle the little guy. He can wrestle the big guy. I think this guy is on the cusp of greatness because he's so young and how good he is already. He's always going to have that built-in rivalry with Kenny Omega, so that match is always going to be looming in the picture. And when that match happens, Takeshita will become even a bigger star. But yeah, I'm a little partial to him. He's my favorite thing, favorite person to watch on that channel right now and on that programming. And I was looking forward to this match. And I'm not going to dogpile on Ricochet. I'm just going to say this, talk about Mercedes Moné coming over. Ricochet coming over was supposed to be a big deal. It doesn't seem like it was a big deal now, because we're seeing him kind of out there doing the same thing every time. And, when we're having all these matches, these quote unquote dream matches, just to have them. And then they built something here with Konosuke. I don't know if they're going to revisit it, but what's next for him? And I've kind of been let down by his AEW run. I thought it would have been a little bit better. Thought maybe he would have been portrayed or looked a little better than what he has, but I haven't really been blown away with him in AEW.
And I may have said this last night, but I very much feel like Ricochet is, and this is not to discredit him. I like Ricochet a lot. I think he's a tremendous athlete. He does a lot of unique moves and has potential to be amazing. I think he's stuck in the same rut he was in before he left the WWE. That's just my opinion.
And it could have been, as Stryker says here, and I'll say it like Excalibur, the way that Takeshita finished off Ricochet last night. It was the brain buster. Oh, I love that match. I wish maybe that match could have been a little more than what it was. We got getting back to the discussion here about finishing moves that should have taken you out. Yeah, there were 3 times I thought for sure Ricochet wasn't going to kick out. And it's because he either got his head taken off or suffered from a high impact move, and he kicks out. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, if he doesn't kick out there, I don't think of him as any. If he doesn't kick out, I don't think of him as any less. Like, I'd be like, dude, he took that. That was tough, But I don't know. Something I'm kind of maybe looking at. maybe I overanalyzed too much and just need to enjoy wrestling a little more. But that's kind of what I took away from that is I thought Takeshita would win the whole way. No slight to Ricochet, but they made Ricochet look really strong there at the end. So we'll see what happens next. But I was looking forward to that match, and it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. But I still enjoyed the match.
Let me just ask you: do you think the false finishes with Ricochet kicking out on those bigger moves took away from the match?
No, I don't think it took away from the match. I don't. Some nights guys just aren't on, and I thought maybe this was the case. I think they'll run it back. I think these guys can have really good matches. I think they can have better than what they did, and it wasn't a bad match at all. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but I think they'll run it back and it'll be better next time. But maybe not sure what happens next for both of them, though.
Right. Now you said something here, and we're going to we skipped over a match. We'll come back to it in a minute. I want to talk about the next match after Takeshita and Ricochet, because you said you felt that Takeshita should have been a little more dominant than he was. I want to talk about Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland.
Okay.
I understand that Swerve Strickland is a former world heavyweight champion. I understand that they want to make him look strong. But this match went 13 minutes and 35 seconds. And I think it went about 6 to 7 minutes too long. I think the way they have brought Bobby Lashley in, he should have been way more dominant than he was. And this should have been more of a one-sided match against Swerve. That's how I feel.
Is this because this match is in the dead spot?
Possibly.
Okay. I wanted to ask that before I continued.
But I mean, Bobby Lashley is this huge hulking man. He's a beast. He's a monster when you look at him. And they bring him in. They brought him in like a monster. But he's an absolute monster. He's a former world heavyweight champion, or former world champion. I agree. I think this match could have been 5 or 6 minutes shorter, and no slight on Swerve, but Lashley is this monster coming in. Lashley's got a better resume than you do right now, Swerve. Lashley needed to come in and manhandle Swerve in this match. Yes.
And get a win, a decisive win. So Swerve comes back for the rematch, and then you're starting to talk money. You're starting to talk, okay, what's Swerve going to do to take this big dude down? Because this guy's big, and then, you can have the blow off whenever you wanted to.
And that's no disrespect towards Swerve Strickland. I think he is tremendous. He is a former.
It's supposed to be a big deal when a former world champ goes and debuts somewhere, but I just didn't. I guess I don't like what the Hurt Syndicate has done, or what they're doing, or how they're going about stuff. I don't know. I just, can they do better? Can they do better? Do you like that it's pretty much exactly what they were doing in WWE,
No.
but it's a different name now? I mean, do you like that? I mean, I'm fine with MVP being the mastermind and the mouthpiece. That doesn't bother me.
Right.
I'm fine with Shelton Benjamin. Love his in-ring work. Think he's great. I love watching his matches. I've got nothing against Lashley. He's not my cup of tea, but I don't disparage him. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. I just never have really dug the character. So I mean, you tell me, could they have handled it better? What should they have done different? I mean, are we not giving this storyline, this return, the benefit of the doubt and need to sit here and let it play out?
I mean, maybe I can see that, but you mentioned something that sticks in my head because we've talked briefly about something like this, and it's something I want to delve into on the kick out a little bit more. But carrying over gimmicks between between companies, it's like you said, Bobby Lashley is the same who he was in WWE, but he's not. He should have come in and just dominated Swerve Strickland, but it's the same shtick that we saw. And I look at a lesser tag team in the former Maximum Male Models who are also doing the same shtick that they were in WWE. I think it takes away I think people should show they have more depth than just to be the one-dimensional character that they were from a previous company. I'd like to see more from Bobby Lashley in a different light than just have him be the same ass kicker that he's always been.
I can't argue with that. I don't have a problem with anything you just said there. And I think you probably said what a lot of people are feeling or have felt at one time about Bobby Lashley. So we'll see what happens. I hope it changes. I hope he becomes a bigger deal than what he is in AEW, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll let things play out and we can always revisit this. So let's touch on
something else real quick before we get to the last two matches that we haven't talked about.
Okay.
You mentioned that Lashley and Swerve were in the dead spot. Let's be
I
honest.
asked you if it affected your judgment of the match.
That's fair, but you still brought up that this was in the dead spot.
Yep.
Let's face facts. This crowd was dead throughout the entire show.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on in that building last night, and I thought you were going to be a smart guy and make a reference to the dead spot being on the whole card because the crowd was dead, but they not a very engaging, boisterous crowd that wanted to be part of the show last night, I guess.
No, very much not.
Not very vocal. I think one of the biggest pops of the night was the Rizzler coming out. That's no joke. Go back and listen to it. But I don't know. Something was off with the crowd, but yeah, I don't know what it was. And usually that's a good market for wrestling fans, New York, New Jersey area. So
yes.
Yeah, don't know what was going on there, but it was an awfully quiet show, at least from watching at home.
And it kind of took away a little bit from the show, in my opinion, because if the crowd had been more excited, I may have been more excited about some of the things we were seeing.
Absolutely.
When you're watching from home, the crowd helps draw you in, not just the matches. The matches are there to draw you in, but the crowd helps in a tremendous way that I don't think people realize.
I would agree. What do we have left to talk about here?
So my biggest surprise of the night happened 2 matches prior to where we just were. We have the TNT Championship match between Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry. And I, going into this match, thought 100% for sure Jack Perry is walking out with that title. There's no way they're going to put it on Daniel Garcia. But they surprised us. New. The only title change of the night. Daniel Garcia, your new TNT champion in AEW.
Yeah, what'd you think about that? What was your reaction to that? Surprised, obviously, because you didn't think he was going to win. But you tell me your take on Garcia winning.
I think it's well deserved. I think he's a very underrated talent. He's someone who was thrust into a big feud with MJF for a short period of time, and then, like so many other people in AEW, kind of got swept under the rug. So to see him come back and to have this championship reign now that he is starting, I think it's a very pleasant surprise. I think it's well deserved, and he has come into his own. The crowd, not necessarily last night as we record this, but the crowd in general seems to gravitate towards him. They like his work, they respect what he does, and I think this is a good thing all around.
Yeah, I think so too. we were discussing last night. I do like what Jack Perry has done to the TNT title. It's kind of a cool look, and really went with his gimmick. And I wonder if Daniel Garcia is going to keep that, or we're going to get another personalized title or not. But I really dug the TNT title. Props to Daniel Garcia. They meaning AEW, has plans for him. They see, I think they see him as, a guy who can try and help fill that void that Bryan Danielson left behind.
Yes.
A wrestler's wrestler that the crowd can get behind. He's charismatic. He's getting better on the mic. He's still young, but I think the better years are ahead for Daniel Garcia. And I think this was kind of a pat on the back and, hey, let's see what you can do right now type of deal for us. But props to Jack Perry for becoming relevant again as a scapegoat. I mean, he gets hate, man, but he is definitely grown into that role, has made it his own, put a little interesting spin on it, and I'm giving him credit. I mean, I didn't think it would be this good with him doing that. So he has exceeded my expectations there. So just wanted to give him a little props, but that's all I had on that match.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have as well. Kudos to Daniel Garcia for coming away as the new TNT champion. He's not in the women's division. It's not the TBS championship, like I almost said. No. But let's get on to the main event and Don Moxley.
Yeah, it's Don Moxley, the current AEW World Champion. If you guys are saying, no, it's John Moxley. No, it's Don Moxley, if you ask the Wizard CZ. So Don Moxley took on Orange Cassidy. This will be the third meeting between the three in a little over a year. Previously, it had been for the International Championship that Orange Cassidy had held. Moxley is 2-0 in those matches. And last night, it was more of a fight than it was a wrestling match. And I think if you have been following the product and been following the storyline with these two, you kind of expected that. You weren't going to get a mat-based classic inside the ropes. You were going to get a fight on the outside and blood, and I think blood was done right here. It wasn't over the top. But this match was about what I expected. It had my interest because I wanted to see what was going to happen during the course of the match and then where this whole Moxley power takeover is going. So it had my interest. I wasn't expecting this thing to be a 5-star classic by any means, but It was entertaining. Orange Cassidy takes one of the best ass kickings I've ever seen. He does get his ass kicked and looks like $1 million doing it. And that just makes his opponent look that much better. And it's not a knock on Moxley, just Orange Cassidy just is. I know he gets ripped a lot, but man, I think he does a great job of getting his ass kicked.
I agree. I completely agree. Now, the story with this match, it wasn't the match itself. It was everything that happened afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of moving parts. Jay White comes in. Hangman Page comes in. Christian Cage with his AEW title contract hits Moxley with the unprettier and teases a cash in, but doesn't happen. That's okay. Moxley and crew, the Death Rider crew, scooted out of there as fast as they could to avoid a possible cash-in after Christian failed initially. And then somebody gets hit by a car. And that somebody was driving the car that hit the other vehicle, and that was Darby Allin.
Yeah. Yeah. We get attempted vehicular assault in the back. You see a car flying out of nowhere, crash. Darby Allin, already bleeding out the mouth when he gets out of the car that he's driving into, goes over to, is it right to Claudio? I can't.
He doesn't.
I can't remember.
They're gone at this time.
They're gone. He goes over to.
They come out, they watch the crash, and they
Yep.
hustle into the white SUV that's in front of Moxley's truck.
And everybody's wanting to know who's that white SUVs is, right? Whose is it?
Right.
And I no idea. No idea.
No. Wait and see.
Yep.
But
no
Darby
idea.
comes out and smashes the windshield of the truck. He
That's
stumbles getting on top of the hood, which was hilarious.
Yep.
I don't mean to call him out for botches, but that boy is going to kill himself one of these days. Whether it's,
I hope he's, man. I just hope he takes better care of himself. But he is entertaining. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. He's entertaining. He does a lot of crazy, ridiculous things, and I hope he stays safe and does them well and doesn't end up ending his career early.
Right. For sure. Match ended how I kind of thought it would. I didn't think Orange Cassidy was going to walk out as champion. I thought there might be a possible cash in, but didn't think actually we'd get action on it last night. This Moxley thing's still moving very slowly. We just, the power struggle shows up each week, bully themselves around, and then leave. We've got Orange Cassidy standing up to this group.
And he's kind of the front runner of AEW's crew that's standing up to them.
We can bet on Daniel Garcia to be there for the fight. Where does Hangman Adam Page come out and join the ranks of Team AEW, so to speak, to take on these Death Riders, these infiltrators? That remains to be seen. But hopefully coming out of this, we get some fresh new stuff so we can build for World's End at the end of December. And then just a week later, the big show over in Japan for AEW. Yeah.
Lots of big things coming for AEW. Interesting to see where things will go over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the big deal about World's End is the second annual Continental Classic tournament. Which a very unique tournament. I don't know that they need the extra belt, but we've talked about that before. We don't need to hash it out again.
Well, the belt signifies if you're the champion when the tournament starts, or when you get an automatic spot in the tournament. So we know that Okada will be in the tournament at least.
Yes. As we kind of wind down our talk about Full Gear, let's throw out some letter grades. We do that more often than not. Where do you rank Full Gear? What grade do you give this?
I enjoyed 2-3 matches on it. I'll give it a C+.
Oh, you're a little more generous than I am. I definitely can't go higher than a C, but I've got to stick right at that C-.
Okay. I didn't absolutely. I think you just liked it more than I did. I'm not saying I loved it. But they turned in some extra credit there at the end and got it from a C to a C+ for me.
That's fair. The end of the way the night ended did make up for a lot of the questionable antics throughout the night.
No doubt.
But yeah, that's going to wrap up our discussion of Full Gear, AEW Full Gear. This has been episode 159, Grinding Gears, of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. For my tag team partner, Never Wrong, Nick Bull, I am the Wizard CZ. We'll see you midweek for the kickout, and next week right back here on Card Subject to Change.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.